like to invite G. Narendra Nath, ITS Joint Secretary, Cyber, National Security Council Secretariat, Government of India. Let's give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Members on the panel dais along with me, and the audience here consisting of experts who are going to come subsequently on the day, and my colleagues here, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome and good morning to all of you. I would like to thank being given the opportunity to speak on this occasion and share a few thoughts with all of you. Okay. So the session is on driving digital transformation in governance, vision, challenges, and I've heard my colleague speak earlier and the points that he has raised. So one of the things that comes about when you talk of governance and delivery of services is the ultimate user of the services, and some of the points were touched earlier. And the first thing that comes to mind is, how do you design those services for ensuring certain things? And one of them is ease of use. A lot of time you find that the services, that's one aspect that you have to keep in mind. The ease of use is one part. The other is the clarity on the platform. When you look at it, you should be able to understand what it is about. And here, I've taken examples of earlier that we have these frauds that happen where people think that they are receiving payment, where in effect they are making payment. So there, it's a problem with the design of the platform, where the person is not aware whether he is making a payment or receiving a payment. So there the design of the interface with the citizens, one is the ease of use and the clarity about how it is. The other is for the contingency planning. There are a lot of parameters which could go wrong, and then that service is not available at a particular point of time and you're left high and dry. Especially, for example, you go to a place where you want to make a payment and connectivity is not available, or access to the server, sometimes it comes up, access to the server is not available and you're left high and dry. You wait for that connectivity to be established again. So the contingency planning for that also. So when you talk in terms of design of the services, I think these are some of the parameters that we should keep in mind when you design the services, especially the user interface, keeping in mind the target audience. And then the target audience, it's also not necessarily one set. The understanding of the target audience, the educational levels of the target audience, the milieu from which they come, it varies. So if you have a wide target audience and different characteristics set, then it's a challenge to have one common interface which actually addresses the requirements of all of these users. So that's a very, very big challenge, and then you will have to be, that is one part that you have to address. And there could be ways of doing it by, at the beginning itself, identifying a category and then, pitching the services for them accordingly. Then. The second is regarding the trust and transparency. Especially, many a time we do not know what exactly is happening in the back end. And for some of us, it's important to know what's happening in the back end. Who is the party who is actually handling some of the transactions? How is the data stored? How is the data shared? So these are some aspects that we are concerned about. So that the transparency about the whole process about how the transactions are going through is an important component. And the trust factor also is important. That about the parties who are there, what are the antecedents of those parties, how are those parties onboarded, which is the agency which actually certifies that these parties are genuine parties or not, is an important component. So when you look at this whole, these are some of the parameters maybe we could address. Sitting in an initial design phase itself, when you look at designing the solution, we could actually take care of these factors. But then there is an external environment of which we do not have much of a control. And that external environment where you have these phishing campaigns happening and others masquerading as services that you are there. And those are aspects that also have to be taken care of. So that you have these apps, you have an app, multiple apps are there, we do not know which is a genuine app. And we have a colleague from railways. So if I go to the IRCTC for IRCTC app, I go to Google Play Store, there will be multiple apps, sounding like IRCTC. You wouldn't know which is a genuine IRCTC app. So this is another challenge that we have to take care of. The people know which are the genuine apps which are there, genuine URLs which are there, and this is an area that's required to be addressed. Some initiatives are, there's a lot of dialogue that happens. We have heard of the I4C, the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, and other agencies, working with the OTT players and others. Like whether is it possible to flag, apps that have been verified, certified by the government, that this is an app that is verified with Secretary of so that this is an app that I can generally trust and love. So then you could create an app, bouquet of apps which are say genuine service delivery apps, banking apps, okay, and e-commerce apps, let's say. For example, you actually somebody, agency will trust that, and the Google Play Store then put a flag on that saying that this is one that's already been verified by a government agency. And people have that trust in that and love it. Then there's another initiative that's been started off that because you have this lot of SMS messages coming about, and banks also send SMSs to you, and then they send that this is your account details. Now you can click on this link and then go there, and that's a sort of SMS you also get from people fraudulent actors. So how do I differentiate between all of that? So one of the things that they've done is that 160 number. I know how many people of you are aware of that. I'll also take a poll, like next second. How many of you are aware of 160? Okay, you are one person. So recently, the Department of Telecom has come up with 160 as a number. So it's saying that all the banks' numbers will start with 160. And that's a work in progress. That's been announced. So now the banks, so when you receive a number with 160, it's coming from a genuine bank. Otherwise, you can ignore that number. So that is one way of going in. So that is one. But what about the URLs? No, SBI.com is not a genuine SBI. It's SBI.co.in. AxisBank.com is genuine. So how do you know that when you have more than 1,500 top level domains? How do you know which is a genuine domain name? So the one way will actually, after our regulators and others to at least, let's say, end all banks with .bank.in or .fin.in for financial institutions. Like we have .gov.in, but NIC is the registrar for that. And I was with my colleague, Mr. Bansal here, and he was telling me that Narendra is the registrar for .edu, .in and .ac.in. So something like that. If you have all your banks starting with .bank.in and .fin.in, that's one way of actually ensuring that. And good for us. IDRBT has been designated as the registrar for those two domains, and they are in the process of actually putting in place the infrastructure for that, and then they will be allocating all the banks. So then you can trust in your ends with .bank.in. One thing good is they did not make it .bang.in because A could be an Cyrillic alphabet also. That's where we get confused between a Roman alphabet, and A as a Cyrillic alphabet, and somebody could be phishing based on that. So they are making it .bnk.in. I mean, that's what I understand, but let's see how it finally turns out. So these are some things that help whenever you're trying to proliferate the governance applications through the digital platforms to build a trust in the whatever transactions that are happening, and these are some initiatives that are happening. Okay, then we are talking about emerging technologies, and many of them are esoteric technologies like AI, quantum, and then we talk about blockchain and all of that. There are very limited set of people who really understand these technologies. A lot of us speak about it. I mean, I am also speaking about it. Okay, and just because I am speaking from this forum, that doesn't mean that I am an expert in that. Okay. So, but then when these esoteric technologies come about, again we come down to the element of trust that is there. And then when we design these systems, how do you have mechanisms for preventing unauthorized access, okay, the manipulation of data that can happen, how do you ensure all of that? And then you also have to design all of them for forensics. Many a time what happens is you try to do something has happened, you will find the relevant logs are not available. So you have to design them for forensics. You have to design them for resilience. If something goes wrong, there's something else that takes care. I mean, you have disaster recovery and all of that. But we'll have to take actually for resilience, then the availability not just of the features, but of all the transaction details also that are there. So when you talk all of this, the important part is about the logging. That you have to be, especially at the design stage itself, you decide what are the logs that you would like to have, so that I can do the forensics later on. Okay, and then keep track of all of that. And then how do I store the logs? So, I mean, personally, I've come across a case when I did an investigation of where people have done some mischief in the network and then deleted all the logs because they have, especially in Linux, you have access super user ID, access all of that. You can delete the logs. So they deleted all the logs of that. So how do you actually store the logs? Not only that, the immutability of the logs. And you're doing backups, immutability of the backups. So your design for all of these resilience features is a very important part. And many a time you find that people get a ransomware attack and then you'll find that the main data center is gone. Then when they try to bring it up, that disaster recovery data center is gone. The data there also gets, corrupted, encrypted. So you have to actually think through all of these things. And all of this is the part of the system design. And here, one of my pet topic is about secure by design. We talk about, and people talk about secure by design. And the secure by design doesn't really happen because people do not consider security as a functional requirement. In the first meeting when they put all the functional requirements, and a lot of people are there who are driving projects of digitization. I don't know how many of you would have, in the first meeting that you had, when you listed out the requirements, put security as a requirement at that particular stage. You won't, a lot of people don't. And I'm again saying from practical experience. It's only when you finish the design, then you start looking at what firewall should I put, what IDS, IPS should I put. This is the sort of thing that you do. Actually, security also should be put as an initial functional requirement. Then you'll find the system architecture changes based on that. You might like to consider zero trust architecture in that, different modules talking to each other. How do they authenticate, authorize each other for the interactions? So all of those things would also come in. Now we come to what is emerging technologies and use for all of that. The amount of logs that get generated on a daily basis. You get tired. You have to make a sense of those logs. You have to take action out of that. This is where all of these emerging technologies, especially the AI part of it, comes in. So how do I use AI for the analytics of the log? You can indicate if time is over. Feel free. So this is where the AI component part of it, and then you start using AI for making these systems robust and resilient by taking proactive actions based on the logs that you get, the analysis of that, and then taking the required actions based on that. So this is where it comes. And here, we have this global AI mission. You're all aware of the AI mission that's come about, 10,000 crores for 10,000 GPUs compute that they want to create and subsidize the access for people to use that cloud-based compute infrastructure for doing AI solutions. So that's a very good initiative over a period of 5 years. And they're going to have this empowerment of AI service providers. Okay. So this is where the using AI for all the data analytics for providing services is one part. And using AI also protecting the systems is another part. And this is where I think both of them have to come in. And it's for us to keep ourselves abreast. On a daily basis, you have to spend 1 hour every day morning just to keep yourself abreast. You've got to come to the office and go back. But I think beyond that, when you get up in the morning, I think 6 to 7 or 7 to 8, whatever is the time rule for you. You have to spend time to get abreast of the latest technologies. Not necessarily get into the nitty-gritties of how the technology works, the bits and bytes of it. But where does the technology gets used? What are the best practices for that? And where similar use cases to the type of organization you work in, they have been used. A lot of innovation is copying, A lot of innovation is copying. So if you are able to copy effectively, that you've done a lot of innovation in your own organization. So that comes about by actually spending some time reading about what the others in the world are doing. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to tell you. Then the other is about blockchain. People get confused with blockchain and cryptocurrency. They are entirely two different things. Blockchain as a technology is good. Because especially for the documentation part of it, where you want to have authenticity of the documentation, especially for land reports, there are some pilots that have happened and they're doing. In the blockchain also, there is a center of excellence that's been created for blockchain. The NIC is running that. So I hope you're aware of it. And it's some sort of blockchain as a service. So if you want to really run a blockchain application or use a blockchain, you could go to them and then use that blockchain instead of you yourself trying to create a blockchain. So that way it's very good. There's a website available. Kindly go to that, look at it, what are the different blockchain technologies available, and what are the different services that are being provided. An example is the HCRT certificates that are being given, CBSE certificates that are being given, 10th and 12th class certificates for the last 2 years that have been given through that. And they are digitizing the certificates right from 1975 onwards, so that they're available. So that you don't have people, you get somebody, it's a fake certificate, and then somebody gets an employment or an educational opportunity at a higher education institution because of the fake certificate. Now we have opportunity to get verification of documents through this. Not only certificates like education certificates, but even land records and other things, so that you don't have dual purchase of the same plot of land. So that is another part of that. So the thing about that is, again I come to the fact of trustability, immutability and traceability of documents and all of that. So these are features that come out of blockchain, and some of those things that I talked about for providing citizen services, you could achieve through implementing blockchain. Come to the encryption part of it, especially data protection and both in motion and transit. So here we have lots of encryption solutions, but people have been talking about quantum. Here also we have a national quantum mission, 6,000 crores worth of approvals up to 2030, 31 over that period, with the 4 verticals on compute, the communication part of it, sensing, and then the materials devices part of it. So different. One thing good about this whole is it's not that we are way behind the others in the world, especially in this area. Especially in the communication part of it, the quantum key distribution, the QRNG part of it, we are at par with the rest of the world. And in the compute part, of course, we are a little behind, but I think given this initiative, we should be becoming on par with it. And the apprehension that once this compute power in the quantum domain comes about, the existing encryption would be broken is a fear that is there for people. So I think this is another area that we should do. And here I would say there's a lot of work that we've done, just before the quantum mission itself has come. From our office we have funded multiple projects on quantum key distribution, QRNG, and on post-quantum encryption based systems also. Then one thing I would like to talk about is a lot of digital and all that. We should talk about the circular economy also, because the amount of e-waste that's been generated and the problem with the availability of critical minerals that is there. So I think we should very sensibly harvest e-waste and try to harvest the critical minerals out of that, so that our dependency on external sources of critical minerals is considerably reduced. So this is another important part, and all of the states have a very big role in actually ensuring how do they collect the e-waste, how do we get it processed, and then extract all the critical minerals that are required for recycling. Then final point, capacity building. So final point, capacity building. One is the hygiene part of it, because finance is I keep on telling, finance is a horizontal that's across all human activity. Now digital is again another horizontal which is common across all human activity. It means that irrespective of where you work and where you are, what time of the society you are, you're supposed to be digitally aware, digitally conscious, and then maintain digital hygiene. This is an important part. So that the capacity building for that is very important. When we did this bank accounts for so many people, we didn't anticipate that we'll be creating an umpteen number of mule accounts. Okay, and we feel sorry for some of the people who became those mules, carrying the money for some of the fraudsters that are there. So when you talk the hygiene part of it and making people aware of all the digital services, it's a very important part of it. Then the awareness and then the skill sets, especially at people who are managing the systems, running those systems, configuring the systems, or actually providing security for the systems. The type of in-depth knowledge that's required for that is an important component. There's a program under the MIT Institute of Information Technology called ISCA, Information Security Education Awareness 3.0. The third version is there. It's around more than 300 crores project for providing training. They're providing a digital platform, digital labs, and all of that. So that's a platform. It's just been launched. So I think that is one thing we should leverage to see that across the country we use this platform for providing the necessary digital skills. There are certain other capacity building initiatives that are happening. I'll talk about it because I have a session again in the evening. Thank you very much.